Captain America 4 flew into theaters this weekend as the latest film in the MCU and the first to continue Captain America's legacy after Steve Rogers. With interest in the MCU and superhero films altogether waning, does this film provide a much needed boost? Welcome to the Review Desk. I'm Desmond Kirk, and today I'll review Captain America Brave New World. The good. The acting all around is very solid. We've got veterans Harrison Ford and Carl Lumbly on board, and they really show what their experience brings to the table. Ford has genuine moments of a man who's trying to change his ways. He's got to be more diplomatic, more open to the opinions of others, and he makes Ross look like he's really trying, but it's not easy. And he has his limits. When he starts to get angry, you can see his temper gradually rise instead of just blow his top immediately. The late William Hurt would be proud to know that the role is in good hands. I also applaud the filmmakers for having Ross shave off his mustache. When Red Hulk first debuted in the comics, there was a lot of debate over his secret identity. Fans like myself were quick to rule out Ross because of his mustache. Then they pulled some comic book nonsense and explained that his facial hair disappears when transforming. I mean, come on, guys. So yeah, having him shave it off in his human form was a smart move and proves that sometimes you shouldn't stick to the comics too closely. On the other hand of the emotional spectrum is Isaiah Bradley, played by Carl Lumbly. In Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we were introduced to Isaiah and given a look at his tragic backstory, which was wrought with injustices. When he's at risk of being thrown back in prison and pleads with Sam that he can't go back there, we as the audience can really feel the fear and frustrations he's dealing with, and it does come with some anger that he had to potentially suffer even more injustices, making us question whether people in power have learned anything from past transgressions. Giancarlo Esposito is absolutely menacing as Sidewinder, and it's so much fun to watch. Every single role this man plays, whether it's the deceptively polite Gus Fring in Breaking Bad or the sinister Moff Gideon in Mandalorian, he brings something unique to the table. But it's not all seriousness, as we see Joaquin Torres return as the new Falcon and provide some comic relief in a breezy way. The MCU is known for connecting storylines and introducing elements from the comics in almost effortless ways. Brave New World is no different. It's absolutely epic when the film introduces adamantium. This incredibly strong metal is connected to many characters and stories from the comics, most notably the Weapon X program and its most successful subject, Wolverine, which could pave the way for mutants. It also, finally, addresses the issue of the giant dude sticking out of the Indian Ocean. And there's more. As Wakanda Forever showed us, many superpowers were getting into conflict with the nation of Wakanda because they wanted a piece of the exotic metal vibranium. But all that can be put to bed because now they've got a metal that's even stronger, even though it lacks some of vibranium's other qualities, such as absorbing kinetic energy. This could also mean that Talocan could spring back into action, because if they don't trust other nations with vibranium, they definitely won't allow them to exploit adamantium. And the same goes for Wakanda. They don't trust the rest of the world with vibranium. Will they allow superpowers to possess a metal that could challenge it? So, in one fell swoop, the movie has set up a lot for the future of the MCU. Speaking of connections, this movie features a ton of callbacks to 2008's Incredible Hulk, a movie that often feels overlooked in a grand scheme of the franchise. There are some clever allusions to other MCU films. Sam is insubordinate because he's trying to prove the innocence of a super soldier friend who was forced to commit crimes while under mind control. Just like Civil War, where Steve Rogers is insubordinate because he's trying to prove the innocence of a super soldier friend who was forced to commit crimes while under mind control. This film also shares political and espionage undertones with Captain America the Winter Soldier, which many agree is not only the best Captain America film so far, but also stands as one of the best MCU entries altogether. Just like Steve, Sam is forced to go against his superiors because he believes more in the ideal America than following questionable protocol. The bad. While the three performances I mentioned are top-notch, most of this film is underwhelming. Anthony Mackie has charm to burn, and in the many times we've seen him as Sam Wilson, he's usually the voice of reason, even in matters where he has a personal investment. This movie turns him into an impulsive hard charger and unfortunately doesn't give Mackie much to work with. We see Sam struggle with the idea of whether or not Captain America needs to have the super soldier serum, but the story is pulled in so many directions that it doesn't have time to properly touch upon that subject, which could have been a major threat. The rest of the cast is just kinda there. Ruth Bat-Saraff is the mutant powerhouse Sabra in the comics, but she's relegated to Widow Light in this movie. This was probably done because of the controversy currently surrounding Israel's treatment of the Gaza conflict, especially since Sabra in the comics was shown to be a somewhat indifferent soldier whose brash approach resulted in the death of a young Arab boy. She retains her Israeli roots, but isn't affiliated with that country's government. While I like the fact that her new widow backstory is a nod to Natasha and Yelena freeing all the widows from Dreykov's control, she isn't given much to do in this film. The biggest offender here is Sidewinder. The trailer made him out to be the big bad in the movie, but barely a third into it, he's taken off the board. I don't know if this could be chalked up to rewrites and reshoots, but regardless, they should have tweaked the trailer. While the humor is there, it's more miss than hit, mainly because it isn't as cohesive as it could have been. Jokes seem to come out of nowhere and don't match the tone of the scenes they're in. All this is the result of the story being kind of mid. It has the makings of Winter Soldier in it, but where that film featured complex plans within plans and counterplans, such as Nick Fury actually being the one who hired Batroc to capture the Lemurian star, Brave New World has a habit of simply explaining things away as, oh, Stearns predicted it. How did the CIA end up paying off Sidewinder? Oh, it was Stearns. How did taking Japan off the board result in India backing out of the new accords? Oh, it was Stearns. A lot of people have pointed out the political undertones of the film, comparing Ross, a controversial president with a less than sparkling track record, to, well, I don't even have to tell you who he's being compared to. Now, we could chalk it up to pure coincidence, since this film was in development even before Trump threw his hat in the ring. But there were some obvious alterations made to the script. When Trump first took office, he promised a bipartisan approach, calling for all Americans to work together.
It's time to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind us. It's time to unite.
Ross does the same, and the news reporter points out that he, just like Trump, has a history of the exact opposite where he ridicules opponents. As I stated before, the film builds connections with earlier MCU material. Unfortunately, this sometimes results in some major inconsistencies. Sam was given a vibranium suit by the Wakandans, and he made it clear you don't just go up and ask them for a spare. But in the final battle, he suits up in a different suit, which can't possibly be made of vibranium as well. The jetpack seems to be detachable as he used his vibranium wings with that one, but why switch to a less durable suit? And even then, we see the old suit damaged when Sidewinder attacks Sam with a knife. It's never specified whether this is a special kind of knife that can cut through vibranium, which, if it is, it will be standard issue for American soldiers everywhere, so the suit taking that kind of damage makes absolutely no sense. Another thing that doesn't make sense is the lack of preparation for a Hulk attack. Thunderbolt Ross has spent a large part of his military career trying to take down the Hulk and other superheroes. When he turns into Red Hulk, none of the armed forces are prepared with anti-Hulk ordnance. It's kind of hard to believe that Ross wouldn't develop such an arsenal, especially since he did exactly that in The Incredible Hulk. With Stearns at his disposal, there's no way Ross would only pick his brain for political advice and not demand ways to neutralize the Hulk or even cure Banner of his gamma transformations altogether. Keep in mind, this isn't some superhuman with unknown elements. This is a Hulk, something Ross himself has personally dealt with on numerous occasions. Speaking of Stearns, what in the world is going on with that makeup? Now, I know comic book accurate designs aren't always plausible. If they try to make Stearns look like he did in the comics, they probably end up with a Hector Hammond looking monstrosity, and nobody wants to see more of that. The Red Hulk provides quite a challenge for a final battle, and his convoluted origins are simplified in the film by stating that Stearns gradually made Ross into a Hulk. However, it comes with a bit of a drawback. In the comics, Red Hulk differentiates himself from his green counterpart by retaining his intelligence. This makes him rather cunning, as seen when he shoots Abomination with a special gun and steals Mjolnir from Thor. Click here for my video on how he managed to do that. By portraying him as a mindless rampaging wrecking machine, they took away what made the comics version unique. Now, I have a theory as to why they did this. Ever since Endgame, fans have complained about Hulk being nerfed after he merged his savage and human sides. The producers probably knew that presenting another merged Hulk would throw off audiences, so they gave us some good old-fashioned Hulk smashing, even if the color's a little different this time. Verdict: Brave New World aims high, but it misses the mark. It doesn't drop flat in the ocean, but doesn't reach the stars either. Just ends up somewhere in the middle. It soars higher than the first Avenger, but at this point in the game, the franchise should be putting out much higher quality. I'll give it 3 out of 5 Thunderbolts. So, what do you think? Did you like it? Were you disappointed? How do you feel about the future of the MCU? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.